All right. Well, we've spent 3 episodes on panelist favorites for debut albums. We first went through bands, then we went to solo female artists, and then we finally finished up with male solo, and now the big finale, right? We've been over like Little Richard, Elvis, The Doors, to the Beatles, to Madonna, to Guns N' Roses, Tom Petty, Tori Amos. But how do you stack up with your favorites against the most important debuts in music history? Well, tonight, that's what we're going to go over with the panelists. Tonight, the panelists discuss their position on the most important albums of all time. And the question is, did their favorites make the list? Will we be able to build a list of 10 is what we're going to do. So hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to Beyond Your Radio's Of Sound Minds. This is episode 7. And if I can get the PowerPoint working, that'd be great, wouldn't it? All right. So the most important debut albums in music history. This is Of Sound Minds is where we pick a topic and let our panelists just go ape shit on it. So tonight, obviously, this is our topic. This is the finale. It's going to be argue, banter, discuss, get pissed off. Who knows what's going to happen? So this is the 10 most important albums in history, according to our little panel. So obviously, like, subscribe, but do me a favor, do us all a favor, comment. Put something in there we didn't think about. There's so many debut albums that maybe they were more important than we actually think. I went over lists. I went on my own. I've done all kinds of research. I'm sure the panelists have too. Maybe not. But at least we're going to go the distance. So on the panel tonight, the man with jam always on his stereo and sometimes in between his toes, the Grateful Dude.
Say hi.
Will her beloved get in tonight on the most important 10 debuts? He's got 2 chances. Dampf is on the program. That's right, Deb, Armitage, Hicks, Maloney, Plant. And of course, my wife will join us later after she's done being the taxi cab with her 20-year-old vehicle. So, how are the panel tonight?
We're great.
Yeah. Hi. It's past Deb's bedtime. We got to move.
No, I have to say, Mark, I'm so glad you did the first 3 shows in this series because it did make this a little bit easier for me. If I had to just come out here and do this, yeah, that would have been hard.
Would have been hard. All right. Well, yeah, I think
it's still difficult, but you know.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to each panelist. They're going to give us one that they want to put on the list. Maybe it was one of their favorites. Maybe it wasn't. Let's put it this way. Most of mine will never make it because I'm just obtuse. But anyway, I could shoot one out there and see what happens. But Deb, start us off.
All right. Well, I decided that I'd be a little bit more objective, even though there are some subjective ones on here. But I would say Elvis, his debut album. Probably all the other people that are on my list would say he was one of their influences. So that's why I think his first album, 1956, I believe.
That would be correct.
Yep. That's who I think, looking at the rest of my guys here, they would say Elvis was an influence for them. So.
Okay. So right now, just to explain to the audience, all 54 of you, Elvis
and me
now at number 1. Will he stay there? I don't know. We'll come up with the next one from the Grateful Dude.
Well, it's got to be from the Beatles. Please, please me.
All right.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
Please me, right?
Yeah, please me.
Please me.
Please, please me.
Yes, right. I'm thinking of, well, we'll get into that.
Please squeeze me.
What was that year?
64?
63.
63. I always get a mix up. 63 or 64. I could never remember.
All right. Mr. Crichton was allowed, because of his 3-time panelist on this, allowed to phone his in because he could not be here tonight. which he was very sad with. His number one, he also agrees with the Grateful Dude that the Beatles.
Okay.
So now, do we want to change the order? We'll get there.
Yeah.
If I'm having this discussion, all right, and people want to argue, without this guy, I don't think this happens.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. All right, we'll see what happens when Sue gets here.
I hope
All
she
right.
gets here soon.
We're dragging it out. No. All right. So mine, from mine, I'm going to throw this. So there's in there. I believe that Kraftwerk, their debut album Kraftwerk, and now I say that Kraftwerk, it's WERK for those that don't really know.
Yes, it is.
Let me just reiterate something to you. The album is essential to the world of electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
They created a genre that didn't even exist, that's now multiplied into all kinds of reaches, all right? But I will tell you this, that's a very funny fact. That's an archaeological kind of album, all right? Which to some was like unearthing a terrible toxin on the music industry.
I remember this.
Okay. But in the general landscape of music, that which they began from this album, that they never play a single song from since 1975.
What?
Okay. They don't like the album. They won't play it. They didn't play it. They played it up until 1975. They played some songs on there. Remember, this is like 1969.
I think their first album, 1970, was their.
It was 70. Okay, 69, 70. The band was formed in like probably 68.
Maybe they released it in 16. I don't know.
Yeah, no, 70s were probably right. I just don't have anything in front of me, so all my screens are black. So I'm putting Kraftwerk in here now.
Okay.
It's good for me.
Right.
That Mr. Crichton is not on the panel, so he can't throw up all over it. But I believe that this album, without that, there's no Billie Eilish, there's no Radiohead, there's no, I mean, just all the things that happen in this. Okay, don't get me wrong. Without the person who created the electronic instruments, which I've talked about probably once or twice on the channel, that this one happened. So Kraftwerk is my choice, and it was never on my favorites list, and even the band doesn't like it. So
and that's interesting because I remember going to see the CNE in Toronto. I think I went to see, the headliner was Billy Idol, but the Thompson Twins opened for him. And my brother-in-law was there, and he said, their music, it's not really good. You just think it's good. So I think now that just sums up what you said about their critics and people going, oh, we don't want to know Kraftwerk. That was a huge mentality, is it's not good. You just think it's good. And I just looked at him and I go, well, that's what matters.
Yeah, well, I do like Autobahn. I do like some of the other stuff, and but yeah, that album is it's not like it's unlistenable. It's just, and listen, I think we had this discussion with male albums that the male solo records weren't really that good. Their second one was better. Their third one, and sometimes I mean, if you want to, we probably won't get to this, but I'm assuming that Nirvana's Bleach is not going to be mentioned. You could say that without Nirvana's Bleach, there's no Nirvana Nevermind. It doesn't really matter because it wasn't that important in music history. Their second album was more important, so I think,
and that's not what this show is about. It's their first album. Got it.
Right. This is not the most important albums in music history. It's the most important debuts.
Got it.
Debut.
That's the word.
The debut. All right. Deb, pick another.
Oh, all right. Well, in that vein, I'm obviously, I'm not going to say the Beatles because I would put that on there, but we can fight about that later, right? I'm supposed to
Correct.
just
You
keep
can
adding
add,
some
you
new
can add,
things.
yes.
Okay, well then I'm going to jump ahead a few years and then I'm going to say Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm kind of going in order here, but of like timeline, but
Are you experienced?
oh, what year was that? Was that 70? 60? No, it couldn't have been.
Nah,
It had to be earlier.
that's terrible. I don't remember.
No, that's yeah, really. With you're the host.
Yeah, well, sometimes the host can't remember. Got a
The
case of the
hostess without
olds.
the money.
Debut 1966.
Oh yeah, I was way off.
Well, it also would depend too whether it was released earlier in the one place or
UK
another.
or something.
Yeah, that's probably the right date.
Did the UK like him before we did? Was he one? Was that one of
No,
those
I
band
don't
the
think that was
guys?
the case because he was
No.
no, but I will say there were a couple of artists that was the case where they were their debut album didn't get
Mm-hmm.
released in the US until like
Right.
Elton John.
Yeah.
Elton John's solo record didn't get released in the US until like he became famous until he had an album in 69 or something, then 74 he gets out. It's
Yeah,
crazy,
74.
right?
Yep.
Somewhere
Something
around
like
there.
that. 73, 74.
Let's get to the dude. Pick another or say yay.
Okay, I'm gonna throw one on. I'm gonna throw one on the fire here. The two. Their first album was fabulous.
Who's this?
Their first album was fabulous.
I didn't catch it. What'd you say?
Same name.
He's cutting out.
Is he cutting out? I turned my visual off because I was
He's frozen.
oh, all right.
The Tubes.
The Tubes. Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
All right. I got you this time. The Tubes.
Hello, hello.
We got you. You can hear us? Let me go back and see if I can get on and
The
see.
Tubes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's having some freezing time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I just realized how does that look the screen? Can you read any of that or no?
Yeah, I can read the screen.
Okay. I remember I'm seeing it in beige.
Yeah. Yep.
Or darkness. So we get you back? There you
I'm
are.
back.
All right. So the
Okay,
Tubes.
the Tubes.
Okay.
The Tubes.
Can you explain your choice?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can. I can. The Tubes are a very influential band.
Influential. Yes.
Yeah.
They were the beginning of punk. They were the beginning of prog. They have a lot of beginnings there. They are taken because of their stature in the music industry. They're not well. They're not
Okay.
well statured. But I will tell you right now, seeing them in concert or listening to their album for the first time, you will completely change them.
Interesting.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure I've heard some of their stuff, but I've forgotten about them.
I mean, I actually have listened to their albums. I would I'm trying to think when was the Ramones? Is that 76?
Yeah.
The Ramones were right after them.
Right after. So they were influenced by the Ramones then. I mean, obviously.
Well, they played with each other on more than one occasion.
Okay.
So they were definitely influential.
Yeah.
But
we like tongue twisters.
yeah, exactly.
You know, we got to get more Primus with a big brown beaver, you know, and just
But the Tubes, if you guys listen to it, I assure you will. This was a groundbreaking album in many ways.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for an album of that, I mean, I think it was like in the top 100 or something like that in that year or whatever. So for a punk album in 75 to be there, yeah, yeah. They actually there's a live album from New York City. I don't know if you've ever listened to it. I was trying to find an album for you when you were for Christmas, but I didn't come in time. It wasn't available. Then I found out you didn't have a record player or didn't want, so that would have been pointless too. So whatever.
Yeah. Just get me the CD.
Yeah, get you the CD. Get you the digifile. All right, so Susie Q has joined us. She's parked the 20-year-old vehicle in the driveway and in the garage and is ready to give us her first
TMI.
of the night.
Okay. Well, what was Jeff's last one? Who
The
came after
Tubes.
him?
Can you
The
read
Tubes?
that?
Well, sort of. My vision isn't the greatest, but
Okay. Well, Deb says that she can read it fine, so I will have to
well,
go.
if I blow it up, let's see.
It's the
That's
tubes.
because I'm
Oh,
not,
yeah.
I wear readers.
Yeah.
I wear
I'm not vain.
These are
There
distant.
you go.
I can't see
Join
anything.
the group.
All right. So my number 5, I went with REM's Murmur, 1983. I chose them. What's have you look so serious, Mark?
I'm typing it in so everybody can see.
Okay.
We're going to eventually boot people out, so not everybody can stay. Only
Oh.
10 people. Only
Okay.
10. Right?
Well, my reasoning for REM was I feel they were super influential. I feel that they came in at a time with like a different type of alternative music. I think it influenced a lot of lyricists. I think it still carries on in some like emo type music these days. Actually, as I was driving my 20-year-old car to pick up the daughter, they were on the radio, so they're still getting airplay. So it was just a really good, solid album. I don't know very many people that didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
I would say on Murmur, it was some of the people that were in it at the beginning, they got a treat. I was not in it at the beginning. I'm pretty sure Jeff Crichton might have been, due to the fact of how but college radio, right?
Yeah.
There's that. They
Yep.
are, I would say, probably if someone said, name the greatest college radio band ever, they would probably be in the top
And
two.
I have to agree with that because I was in my junior year in college when they came out, and that's exactly what I would have explained my introduction to REM was
Yeah.
at school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is it
For
their
sure.
best album? No. But
No,
is that an
but-
influential album? Hell yes.
yes,
well, that's the show.
that's the show.
Well, okay. I'm glad everyone's got it to the point, right? Okay. So Mr. Crichton, who is in again, let's see. He also has Elvis Presley. Sue, do you have Elvis?
I did not.
No fish. No, okay. That's not
I don't think I mean, I realize he could very easily make the list, and he was the male debut, but I didn't include him. So
okay. All right. So right now, so he has Elvis as well. So he had the Beatles, he had Elvis. All right. So now we go to mine.
Yeah.
I think it's hard in the female realm to make this list. I have checked Jeff Crichton's list. He has no female on it. Wait, he had an honorable mention, but it's not a female. It's the female in the band. So there are a lot of great debuts, I think, more than the male. The question of influence is probably the problem. I will, you could say the Ella Fitzgeralds of the world, you could say the Billie Holidays, but technically, album-wise, they were not doing albums at the start. They were doing recording sessions. It'd be like Bach. You can't put Bach on the list. He did not make an album. So I have one person that could maybe stand this list, and I'm going to offer her up. And I have another one too, but I think this
just
one holds more weight. And I think that would be Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. Now, those of you that will say that's not her first album. Yes, it is. It's her first solo album. She had a band called Why Tori Can't Read, and it was Why Tori Can't.
Oh, yes, she
All right.
did. Yeah.
Obviously not in the same vein of Little Earthquakes. I think Little Earthquakes is groundbreaking. I think it influenced every single solitary female in the music industry. I know it influenced an entire generation of LGBTQ and
Mhm.
college radio. And
Mhm.
that's what do they want to call it? Completely vulnerable songwriting,
Yes.
which sort of at that time what was going on, grunge was big, and I don't think that was as evocative as this record is. So I'll
Good
offer
choice.
up Tori Amos' Little Earthquake, and I
Okay.
am going to be a snob just to create hectic, and I'm going to say it's above right now
Huh.
REM.
All righty. This is
Oh.
how this goes.
Yeah, you just get to choose.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask. It was 1992, I want to say, but I could be wrong. Would it if we're looking at this list now, we've
Yeah.
got some more to go, and people are going to have more in.
Uh-huh.
Does anyone want to move the list around? Do we
Wait,
have arguments?
as it sits now, or
As it
with
sits
something
now.
as it sits now?
Mhm.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I would like to see if the other panelists think that Jimi Hendrix should be above Kraftwerk.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No craft work, to be honest. So I say yes.
She agrees with me.
Okay. I will say the
Okay.
reason I don't is because Jimi Hendrix is a one-trick pony.
Okay, well, how does this work? Majority or
No, you guys got. I'll move it.
or,
I just
or
honestly,
education?
here's a guy who the career span is minute,
Yeah,
right? And the
Yeah.
depth of playing, we don't know,
you're right.
right? But influential, yes, but only to a certain demographic of musicians.
I totally disagree with that, what you're saying.
Was that?
Totally disagree. Totally disagree. Kraftwerk is, I only heard of them because of you.
But you've heard of lots of music that they influenced, I think is the point.
I understand, but Jimi Hendrix influenced everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
No.
No, you don't agree?
No.
No.
I think I honestly I would, if we were doing an overrated show, he'd be on my list.
I have to
Yeah.
go.
He'd be on my
Yeah.
list because there's no depth of catalog. There's no depth of what was going to happen. Look at how
He
Yeah.
died too quick.
Gary Clark Jr. came out, and where did that go? Right down. Nothing. It didn't go anywhere. Right.
Yeah, but he was more copying people too.
Well,
He's
here-
just somebody, he sounds like other people.
I would put Dick Dale ahead of Jimi Hendrix.
I would. No.
But then again, I'm talking to the individual who was in the era that he went to see him live. He was so
Yeah.
immersed in that time frame, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that I understand. He was the biggest thing. It was Clapton was an odd, everybody's an odd, and you know what I mean? That's because of, but where was it? I wonder where's it going? But I will relent or what is it? Relent to that position. I figured
Sure.
that Kraftwerk, I figured if Jeff Crichton was on the show, he wouldn't be allowed in the top 10.
I say top 15, but hey.
Yeah. All
But
right.
I have to interject somebody in there.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Somebody I think should be above Jimi Hendrix and below the Beatles is Bob Dylan.
No, you can't. It's not your turn to do that. We're talking about the current list right now.
Hey, I
Yeah,
can do what
you'll
I
be next. Be next,
whenever I want.
But you got to remember, and I got to tell people this: it's the debut. Dylan's debut
Fabulous album.
is
Fabulous.
not that good.
I listened to it. But
It doesn't. But we can put it on there. We'll see if it stays. I've got other people who don't have it on there. But yeah. So Deb, you're next, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm next. Why am I seeing Sue? I need to see Mark because I want to see the list. You're big in my screen right now, Sue, instead of Mark.
So
So
what?
I'm
I
not.
have to be
I'm so
talking so you can
sorry.
see?
No, you have been talking, but all of a sudden. So, all right, I think I remember. Obviously, this is just my pick, right? I don't get to put it. We talk about
Well,
moving
we'll
it
put
later,
it,
right?
yeah, and then we'll decide where you want to put
Yeah.
it.
Okay, Led Zeppelin.
Okay. I would be, and that's a Led Zeppelin one, obviously, because they
Yes.
couldn't think of a name. So that's one strike against them. 'Cause they couldn't think of a name.
That's because they used all their imagination for the band name.
Okay, all right, yes, yes. So, what do people think? Is that above Kraftwerk or above the Tubes?
Above Jimi Hendrix.
Above Hendrix? Sue?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is really hard for me to do. So, yeah.
People just don't want me to cry.
No, I mean, I agree with it. Mine probably won't even make the list tonight, but
Don't say that. Don't beat yourself up too early.
Hey, Deb,
Oh.
is that all right?
Oh, yeah, because they lost creativity for title. Sure. Whatever. My last name is now Plant. I'm happy.
What
Call me
was the
Deb
year?
Plant.
I don't know why I can't think of it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't write the years down because I thought you knew it by heart.
Zeppelin I get confused by Zeppelin. I don't know why.
I'm looking for you. You keep
Zeppelin was
talking.
69, I think.
69.
69.
March
all right.
31st, 1969.
Yeah.
All right.
When you're old, you remember these kind of things.
Mr. Johnson, what say you on your I don't even know what I can't even think of the title of Bob Dylan's album.
Bob Dylan's album was, I think it was Bob Dylan.
It's just Bob Dylan, isn't it? 1962.
Bob Dylan, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
62.
Where am I putting it?
I put it right below Led Zeppelin. Because he's not vocally, he's not known that much, but his writing, who hasn't done some of the songs?
true.
True.
Yeah, that's a mixed bag of tricks for me. Sue.
Okay. So this there's still a spot on there, so she'll make it on for a minute. I went with, and I'm sure none of you picked this, but I just chose Madonna because she influenced like the next 2 decades of pop music.
I have to, yeah.
And this is coming from, I'm not her biggest fan. I don't think she has the best voice on the planet. And her music is obviously a lot of synthesizer and that, but she literally crawled into every crevice of the music world and the movie world, and she's still in
Fashion.
fashion, and she influenced. I mean, she's still showing up at award shows and Britney
Her
Spears
first
and
album was that good.
Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
and like her influence goes on and on and on to other superstars.
Yeah.
Even Miley Cyrus to some degree with her antics. So anyway, I picked her. You can bump her. I don't care what you do with her.
Well, you seem to be stuck in 1983. I don't know what's going on here.
So
I
she
don't know.
woke up. She woke up.
All right. So I'm in here again.
Here's the video.
So now what do we do? When we announce our next one, we got to kick somebody out? How do
No,
we
it's a
do this
question of
part?
whether we let it in or out. The panel gets to decide.
Yeah.
Oh, you can continue
Survivor.
the list?
Survivor
Yeah.
Island.
Yes.
Let's get him
Oh.
a mark.
All right. So my next one is The Doors.
The pick.
Yeah.
Where would it go? What would we agree on?
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay, here's why. They are the true psychedelia.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, from the instruments to the vocalist. All these other bands in the future that come out, a certain part of it's psychedelia. Not, I don't think a vocalist has ever endured that kind of psychedelic passion, except for one other artist who comes way, way later, who's the reincarnation of him, and that would be Jeff Martin of the Tea Party. So, although that's more prog psychedelic, but whatever. That's the idea I have anyway.
Well,
I put them.
me. Go ahead.
I would put them right under Led Zeppelin.
I would say under Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
I mean, and Kraftwerk, again, I don't really know. So
Yeah, Kraftwerk will not survive this show.
sorry, Kraftwerk. I'll look you up.
Well, just so you know, Sue, don't listen to the debut because they won't even play anything from it. They hate it.
Okay.
Deb, where would you do you?
Oh, I would put it before Bob Dylan.
So we got before Bob Dylan.
Mhm.
Jeff said after Led Zeppelin, which is the same spot, right?
Yep.
Okay. I love how you guys are trying to trick me. Your ruse.
I need better rules next time.
Yes. So I will yeah, I'll go with that. I think they were the 67, right? Is that?
I think it's 66, but let me look.
I consider them as well.
67.
Okay.
I get them and Zeppelin mixed up. I don't know why. Who's next? Oh, that was me. So yeah, back to Deb.
Okay.
So how many have you done? This is your third, right?
Yeah, I did Elvis Presley, Jimi Hendrix, and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
Right?
so this is your last one.
This is my last one. Okay,
Yep.
I wasn't sure how many. Oh, okay. Oh, this is hard for me to. Oh, really? It's my last one?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's only 3 categories. There was band, solo artist, and female. So you have to. So that I
Yeah.
didn't know how many people would be on the panel.
Yeah,
so
I
had
got it.
3, right? We can
Gotcha.
argue with some other people in and out if we want after.
Sure. Then I am going to say this is a little bit controversial in my own head, but I'm going to say Peter Gabriel. Simply because, we had talked about how many of the male artists on that show, it was hard to find people that hadn't been in other bands ahead of time and already been commercially successful or, musically successful. But with him, I think it opened up, like other people were doing things going off solo. He just stayed Peter Gabriel. He didn't, I touted on the Mail show that I really loved Robert Plant's debut album because it introduced me to what he was going to veer off and do in all these other fashions, whether it was the Honey Drippers or him with Alison Krauss. But Peter Gabriel, the reason I'm saying this is because we just listened to his I.O. album, how many decades later from his debut album? And he was still Peter Gabriel and he was still brilliant. And I think that maybe other artists haven't wanted to emulate his style, but I think that they would want to emulate his conviction to what he's good at and how he lets that evolve in and of itself. It's not stagnant. It's not Peter Gabriel in 1981 or whatever that was, but it's still Peter Gabriel. So that's my reason for him. If that was my last choice, that's how I had to roll.
So who would you remove?
Woo!
Or shift, I guess, because what's happening is
Shift.
Madonna
Okay.
right now is on the outside. She's at 11. And that's that. After that, she's stricken from the record.
Okay, I would put him, and it's obviously this is where I'm trying to be a little bit more objective because there's all right. I would put him under Kraftwerk.
So he would be ahead of the Tubes.
Yeah.
Okay. What's Grateful Dude? If Gabriel was going to be on the list, where would it make it for you?
It would make it.
They wouldn't make it. Got it. Sue?
Oh. He was also one of my considerations. I mean, could I swap him with Kraftwerk?
You can.
I don't know how to.
That's what. So you would swap him for Kraftwerk. Deb would put him below Kraftwerk, which would move Madonna out. I would make a concession that here's my thought process on the Gabriel record. Salisbury Hill is the only hit, right? Only impression made. I think the next record has more. I think Shock the Monkey's on there, right?
Well, that argument doesn't hold after your argument about Kraftwerk. Nobody knows one thing off of that album, and they don't even like their own album.
Nobody said I want to be like Peter Gabriel. Everyone, that was already prog, right? He's prog.
Yeah.
He did prog. All he did was move himself from the drummer and the keyboard guy.
You're right.
And because he could play keyboards himself. So
You're right. You're right.
Right. So I would say that he is very close. I would if I was going to do something, I would say if he was going to be on the list still, I would move the Tubes off because they're only in one particular vein and category and a shorter lived percentage. But I would say that Gabriel would probably is going to wind up off the list anyway. More than likely. Well, lost the dude.
We lost the dude.
He's mad. You told him that you're getting rid of the Tubes.
I'm just saying I would. I didn't say I did. That would be my thing. I would remove the Tubes because I think there are more influential albums that would be in that, right? But
got it. Agreed.
I think I would. If all was fair, right now I'd remove REM from the list. I would leave Madonna, and I would. You guys want to remove Kraftwerk and put Peter Gabriel in there? I'll let it stay. I'm going to be the only one that's a Kraftwerk person. So I will put Gabriel here.
You can remove REM. That was a soft choice.
No, you still got one pick left there, dear.
Yeah, I know I do. I know.
Unnamed. Because he couldn't think of a name, apparently. Unnamed? That's great. Well, whatever. Debut. And it was 1979.
Let me look.
What is my problem with dates? 77.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna say 76, but
77.
Yep. All right. So
It's Dude's turn.
yes.
My turn. Okay, first of all, I have to say something because their first album wasn't any good, even though in most cases they would make the list. The Grateful Dead did not make the list. My fifth choice and final choice is somebody that should be on the list. The Rolling Stones' first album.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Jeff Cryden's.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yep.
I
His
knew
Jeff Cryden's statement was self-titled debut, showing their roots of blues, rock and roll. Obviously, there's covers on it, which is kind of one of the drawbacks of it to some degree. Which each album, the Stones grew stronger from 1964's debut to 1972's Exile on Main Street, which is the greatest rock and roll band of all time. Quite possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should go. I think it should go between the Doors and Dylan.
I think it should be after Jimi Hendrix. I will bet you. Well, I can't bet you because the past is the past. But I think if the Beatles don't do what they do, the Stones don't get what they get.
I agree with that.
I think that whole British invasion thing kind of softened things up, and they were easy take.
I feel like they were
Yeah.
the bad boys. So I feel like it was like Britney versus Christina. Like,
Christina.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah, it was a
Yeah, it
definite
was
play.
for
I mean,
sure.
listen, I mean, you got what you got, but I will say most important debut albums of all time. There's an argument to say even though it wasn't as good as Exile on Main Street, or they didn't have their did they have their own sound or were they using somebody else's, right? There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of covers on that record.
Mm-hmm.
And then Exile on Main Street, there's always covers. They always do a cover. They've always got that blues retention, right? That rock blues and showing where it comes. But Elvis Presley, those are covers. Those are
Yep.
But if you listen to the first album from the Beatles, it was mostly covers.
yeah, yep.
that's true.
I mean, probably we should be putting on the list like a debut album by like Muddy Waters or somebody like that.
Well,
Wow.
that therein lies
They're
the
on my list.
so all right, so '64, right?
Correct.
Mm.
All right, so
Now we start tailing people.
well, I got my last one.
You
Sue.
don't
So
count.
does Sue. So does Sue.
Sue, you're next.
Okay. Well, so this was kind of difficult. So my like the ones that were going through my head, because I'm a grunge girl, that was kind of like that came into play big for me. And well, first of all, let me say the Beatles were also on my list.
Yeah.
But they're already on the list.
Correct.
And
They'll stay on the list for sure.
so Pearl Jam was really huge and obviously impactful with grunge, but then along came Nirvana, who had their thing. I loved Nirvana, but that catapulted the Foo Fighters. And for me, um, that debut album was incredible, and Dave Grohl was incredible, and the fact that he took the grunge era and he took what was Nirvana and he moved from it and created something all brand new and moved that generation that had been with him, brought in new generations, was influenced by the Beatles and just about every other band that's on here. And is still creating, is still being creative, is still influencing. And and his era is the 90s and not the 60s and 70s. I think it's pretty incredible. And does he have the best vocal? Is he like an Elvis Presley and all that? No, but the music, the fact that I think he almost played every instrument on that debut album. Who does that? And he's still in the making, so I get it. But
That might be the only drawback.
but we're not talking about like, I mean, he has been a huge influence and he's still influencing, but we're talking about the album itself.
The most important album of
I
all
think
time.
it is. I think it is. I think it's one of them.
Okay.
For sure.
Panel. Who would you pull off to put the Foo Fighters debut?
I would pull off the Tubes.
I'd pull off Kirk or
But they're already gone.
They're gone.
okay. I get I get this bigger. Can't get bigger.
I can read
I'm
it.
not
to you.
my-
Number one is Elvis Presley. Number two
No,
is got it?
read me the last four.
Peter Gabriel's debut
last
from
three.
77. The Tubes 1975. Tori Amos, the only one in the modern era. Little Earthquakes in 1992.
Tori Amos pull it off, my opinion.
So we're at the bottom. I think a female has to be on this list.
There's not an equal opportunity stuff going on here.
I just think her album is much more influential than the Foo Fighters' debut. The Tubes, that would be well, we can mention other bands and I would think things would drop off this list, so that would be interesting. But
Yeah.
like the Kinks,
Yeah.
right? The Velvet Underground.
Well, there's
Very
too
good
many.
band.
There's so many.
Any of those are deserving a spot on this list,
Mm.
but they're
Well,
not.
all right. So Sue has this, and you guys want Sue. Who would you remove? You said that. Who would you remove?
Well, for me, I don't know the Tubes. So that would probably be my choice, but the Tori Amos thing, I think she's brilliant.
I'll concede because my next one's going to move the Tubes off this list, or the Foo Fighters, because this list would be absurd without this next one, which is my final. Foo Fighters debut.
Nobody's moving my Foo Fighters.
That was 96. No, right?
What?
Foo Fighters?
The Foo Fighters.
I think it was 95, yeah. Was it 95?
95. Sorry. So my final choice is dark. Real dark. Black Sabbath.
Yep,
Mm.
they're on my list, but they didn't make the top 5.
Now, if Jeff Young was here, he'd
Yeah.
be in like
Oh,
Flynn.
That album is very important in the hard rock metal environment, especially hard rock and doom.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
So-
that's true. Yeah.
I think it should be right under um,
The Tubes. We gotta
I
get
think
rid of the Tubes.
I still think Dylan should be out. That would be mine.
oh God, no. He's too
Mm.
influential.
He's influential. That record is not. No one talks about that record. No one that record doesn't even get spoken about.
Get rid of it then. Get rid of it.
Oof.
I'm not a big Sabbath fan.
No, I am.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm an Ozzy Osbourne fan, so
Yeah. I don't think I was allowed to listen.
probably not. No,
I
you
lis-
probably were not.
I was.
Black Sabbath with your mom? No.
I mean, we're talking just heavy blues. That's basically what it is. It's
Yes, it is.
I wouldn't know.
misconstrued 70. Wow, my shit's off.
Was it 1970?
But it's
Yeah.
dark. It's the
I mean, don't
darkest
get me wrong.
band
I'm
on
not
this-
saying they
on
were the
list.
creators of it. They were not, but they made it. They gave it some purpose.
So they're blues? They're bluesy or they're heavy
Heavy
metal?
rock blues. It's all blue. It's a blues riff. There's no question. It's just
Yeah.
no one had ever played a
Yeah.
riff that
That way.
way.
Yeah.
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 And a flute.
And a flute. By accident, probably. Somebody stepped on it. All right. So Jeff Crichton will be the last to speak here.
Okay, what's he say?
And he thinks Little Richard should be on the list.
No. Not
No.
over all those other ones.
No. He was a copycat. He only did a few songs of his own.
Because he already has the Beatles, he already had Elvis.
Yeah.
He had the Byrds,
Mhm.
and he had spoken about Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Well, they were on my list. They were number 6 on my list. But they came along too late. See, we're talking about the greatest debut albums of all time. You got to go with the originals. You got to.
It's a very hard argument to put anything
Yeah.
from the future
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this list, right? In
Yeah.
the not the future, but I mean in the current, like in the 1990s forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And
Yeah, you can see that obviously, this experiment, right?
right. Well, that's the idea. Now, if you were to do this with people that had no inclination of the past, right?
Mhm.
Or if you were speaking to people that were are not alive anymore, who are, they
Yeah.
would say there's nobody like, Robert Johnson, but album wise,
Right.
it
Because
was
that's what I've always wanted to put Robert Johnson on one of these lists, and it's like,
this is
You can't.
let me just argue a few things against some of the things that happen with the list. First of all, you got to take your head out of who the person is.
I know.
Okay? Because Miles Davis isn't on this list.
Yeah, right.
John
there's
Coltrane is
so
not
many
on this
Yeah.
list.
But we're talking rock
Interesting.
and roll, basically.
No.
No,
Albums.
well, hey, if,
Albums of all time.
greatest albums of all time.
No, most
well,
important.
Most influential.
No,
Yes.
important.
Important.
Influential is a part of that importance, but importance gives you influential sales.
Yeah.
What did it do? Elvis Presley, boom. That's why he's at number one. He's
That's
got the
right.
sales, he's got the influence, he's got
Yep.
also drag, like he dragged other musicians from the dead into the forefront who nobody knew about. He opened up a
It's true.
genre, so to speak.
Yeah.
So he's there. The Beatles, that's you got your
Yeah.
first taste. It wasn't the best taste, but it was something that you had sort of not heard, that poppy side of blues.
Not to mention the first boy band,
right?
Yeah.
for real.
Oh boy.
Right?
Beatlemania.
Would that album, that first album, have influenced anybody moving forward? No, I don't think so.
What, the Beatles? I disagree.
Not the first album.
I
Not the first
Never
album.
talks about
I
that first
listened to
album.
Please Please Me twice before we got on. And every song I recognize. Every single song.
And everybody's going to play the greatest hits. And how many on there are on the greatest hits?
4.
There's one album that has 9.
Yeah.
Revolver.
Yeah.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The
the
list
whole
is
album.
endless. I'm just
But
saying.
we're
I
talking
would
first
think,
albums too. We're talking first album.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think people who were influenced by it. I think they were attracted to it. I don't think they were influenced by it.
And then it had a
well.
domino effect.
Yes. But I mean, hey,
It wasn't what it was in the time, but it had a domino effect that we're
I know
still
a lot
feeling
of
today.
musicians. I know a lot of musicians who say that their biggest influence was the Beatles.
yes.
Oh yeah, we
Yep.
know that.
I just
Yeah,
don't
for
think it
sure.
was that first album. I don't believe it. I would put anybody wants to obviously comments galore. Like anybody wants to tell me, I don't mind to be. I have no problem with that. But
I'm gonna
I
go
would-
right to the comments.
Yes. So Led Zeppelin at number 3. I could argue in and out of that. In through the outdoor. No. I could. They were influential. That album came out. I think it snapped people's heads to attention. I think when you're looking at a power trio, that was impressive for its time. And the lead singer nails it down. The Doors at 4, that's psychedelic, and no one did it like them. That organ, everyone wanted that organ that way after that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Black Sabbath, that's Hendrix. The Stones, I think that's that argument of
Are you experienced?
that the Rolling Stones, Peter Gabriel's debut, the Tubes, and somehow the Foo Fighters hung in there in 1995.
I would probably put the Ramones in there somewhere. Since we got
If
rid
the
of the
Ramones
Tubes.
went in, the Tubes
Oh no,
would
the
go
Tubes
up.
are still there.
The
Yeah,
Tubes are still there. I would argue that the Ramones probably had the bigger that album.
I know the Ramones.
The Ramones would have had, people like we're done with this exercise technically because there's no
Yeah.
more else to put because,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, let's do our top 20 then.
It's early in Hawaii. It's bedtime.
Yeah,
in
we got
Jacksonville.
like 4 more hours.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, we can go way back. Everybody's got influence.
No, because they have to have albums. You can go back to recording sessions, but I could put Bach in the #1 on this list and bury everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
You
know,
never
that's-
had an album.
Box
Never
debut.
had an album.
Yeah, Bach's debut album. Wait a minute, that's the guy from
Sebastian
Skid Row?
Bach.
No, it's not the guy from Skid Row. So what's funny on here, right? This is our list, okay? Egregiously, I want to go to each panelist and go, name another album that you would immediately put on this list and kick something else off.
Oh,
Okay,
that's easy.
Deb.
I would put U2 Boy on there, and I would kick the Tubes off.
Okay, U2 Boy was on Crichton's list because he spoke about it too. That would be an excellent in the top 10 considering what U2 inspired in not just music but in their overall how they sang songs, right? That's they put a country back on the map, so to speak, and it's
They did.
Grateful Dude, who would you mention and take somebody off?
I would probably mention the Foo Fighters and add the Eagles.
You'd add the Eagles. Good
Eagles,
debut. That's an argument.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. Sorry,
Mhm.
Sue.
Okay. I don't make any money out of this.
Yeah.
All that other than I can say that as far as the Eagles go, I don't really know how important that album was to the rest of music. I think
True.
that was already happening.
That's why it didn't make the list for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, then we can't kick off the Foo Fighters.
No, because they got a brand
Oh,
new.
I agree with Sue.
So I'm gonna go into a totally different genre.
Oh no. Is there a glockenspiel involved?
Run DMC.
See,
Oh, cool.
The most commercially successful first, right? You could
Yeah.
probably put LL Cool J in there too, because he was one of the most commercially successable. But that
Uh-huh.
debut album from Run DMC was, I mean, don't get me wrong, that does not have the song you're thinking about on it. But
Right.
I could kick off the bottom three. I don't agree with any of the bottom three. I could, but that's just me. I wanted the other genres to fit in here.
Yeah.
So there's our 10 through magical composition and banter and we're all gonna hate each other tomorrow because my Van Halen's not even on there. Are you kidding
Oh
me?
no.
That's
Well,
crazy.
That was another
somebody
one.
should have
Crazy.
showed up.
Yeah, I think there you go. If you put Jeff Young on the panel, I don't have to say Black Sabbath and I don't have to say Van Halen, right?
True that.
I again, Dick Dale's Surfer's Choice. Without Dick Dale, there's no medal whatsoever because he's the picker and he's the guy that started all that. But that's a
I
different
can throw the
style.
Beach Boys on there too.
I was just gonna say that.
The Beach Boys' first album
Yeah.
is not Pet Sounds, just in case you're wondering. And I hate Pet Sounds. Can't stand it. Don't even understand why it's so acclaimed. But and then again, I mentioned the Velvet Underground. That's another. We could go on and on. So what was your 10? Send it to us. What is your comment against most of the conversation that just went on? You probably forgot about it because we're way over time. But I want to thank the panelists for indulging in this. I was, but it'd been cool if we'd have had one more. That way we could have had some more evilness going on. We'll be back with Of Sound Minds in next month. And I already prefaced what it was. Who shaped your musical journey? And is it over? That's the next one. Join us for that one. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. Articles, videos, podcasts. It's all about albums, bands, artists, whatever we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. And until next time, as always, happy listening.
Bye.